a recovering Baptist preacher's daughter, I'm always a little nervous about performing on church grounds. But I figure if Donald Trump and all his friends weren't struck down at that Value Voters Summit last week, we're probably going to be okay. My parents, said preacher's daughter, my parents were incredibly strict. Think somewhere between Crazy Mrs. Kim on the Gilmore Girls and the dad in Footloose. No rock music, no dancing, and worst of all, no Kevin Bacon. When I was a kid, we lived in Texas, which is, of course, where the most hardline Baptists call home. You can see I kept the big hair. Higher the bangs, the closer to God. And in Texas, the only thing they take more seriously than football as a religion is actual religion. Personally, I think the problem with Texas Baptists is that we just don't hold them underwater long enough. If we do get struck by lightning tonight, my bad. It's Halloween weekend, and this is my costume. Clearly nothing scares Americans more than a liberal feminist with a microphone. I thought about coming as Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but I couldn't find a mask that made those faces. When I was a kid, we didn't celebrate Halloween. My father had religious objections to it. He didn't object to lying, adultery, or embezzlement, but trick-or-treating was just one step too far. And I love this time of year because all the great horror characters are making the rounds on TV. Freddy Krueger, Jason, Pat Robertson, Bill O'Reilly. As I said, the whole religion thing. I was a child of the 70s and 80s who didn't see Star Wars until the 90s because apparently Jesus wouldn't have approved. And I'm a nerd, so I immediately loved it. I love all sci-fi. And unlike a lot of Star Wars fans, I also love Star Trek. And I firmly believe that those two universes can collide. Because if you put a tribble on Jabba the Hutt, you've got Donald Trump. I grew up in Texas, but I was actually born in West Virginia. And so yes, of course, I've heard every West Virginia joke you can think of. Our family trees don't fork. We are our own grandpa. And here's the thing. My sister's in-laws actually had the same last name before they got married. Today, her 21-year-old son sets his Tinder matches 50 miles out, just in case, and still gets matched to his sister. She called me last year for me to figure out if her homecoming date was far enough out in the family tree. Yes. I wish I was making that up. My mother is the one from West Virginia. My very Irish father was imported from Chicago, fresh DNA. And took me a second. The wine is working, that's good. Okay, so my father's from Chicago, and my mother didn't know from Irish. She didn't know she was part Irish herself. She told my father that she thought the Irish were extinct, like the Vikings. That is the West Virginia public school system in action, folks. Yes. People always want to know how a nice West Virginia preacher's daughter like me ended up in Miami, being the den of iniquity that it is. And simple truth, like a lot of Florida transplants, I came to the University of Miami. Go Canes. You barely squeaked it out today. Anyway, when I was at UM, I studied political science. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd major in criminology. Because they're pretty much the same thing now.